Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Carter, who writes, did you see an analyst at Disney in The Hollywood Reporter saying that they expect most movie theaters to remain closed until 2021, mid-2021? If that proves to be true, the repercussions seem massive. What would this mean in terms of the future of theaters, and what will happen to all the movies currently being held? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, first of all, Carter, just to correct you, it wasn't an analyst from Disney that said this, but it was an analyst from a big industry company that analyzes the industry and all that kind of stuff. This was the comment that came from a quote in The Hollywood Reporter by Doug Kreutz, who is one of these analysts that a lot of people in this industry take very seriously. And he wrote the following. We had previously assumed that the spread of COVID-19 would be relatively halted by now. Of course he did, because if we weren't a pack of idiots, it would have been. Because we flattened the curve. Remember that? Good times. And then everybody became jackasses and it spiked again. Anyway. Am I a little bit bitter about that? Maybe. I don't know. We assumed that the COVID-19 would have been relatively halted by now with social distancing requirements significantly lessened by late 2020, Kreutz wrote. We have now extended that timeline out to at least mid-2021. The situation remains very fluid, and we do not rule out the possibility that the impact could last even longer. Now, it is important to point out here that this is one analyst, all right? This is one dude, but again, it is from a company that's taken very, very seriously by the studios and by everybody in the industry that is saying this. That is not a definitive thing that theaters are going to stay closed to mid-2021 and all that kind of stuff. I personally still believe they're going to be open before the end of the year. I thought for sure we'd be open by July. I mean, go back to February. I thought, yeah, by July we'll be open up again because, we're intelligent people. We're going to do the smart things. For the most part, we're going to stay at home. When we need to go out, we're going to wear masks. We're not going to get together in big groups. We're certainly not going to pack out bars and beaches and restaurants and whatever. We're certainly not going to do that. I mean, if we go into a restaurant, it'll be one that has social distancing, 6 feet apart, hand sanitizer, mask, blah, blah. But nope, we didn't do it. And now it is spiked with every single day, new record numbers and all that kind of stuff. So, I did think we would have been open back up again by July. I thought Tenet months ago was going to hit its July 17th release date. By the way, guys, yay, today is the opening day for Tenet. Today is the opening day for Tenet, ladies and gentlemen. Yay, it's July 17th. And yet here we are. So, Rob, maybe I'm being naive or optimistic. I still don't personally believe that it's going to be till 2021 or even late 2021 for when the movie theaters open again. But you have to at least take warnings like this seriously. What comes to mind, though, is what happens if it is the case? What happens if the movie theaters cannot open again until mid-2021? What are the repercussions of that? And that's the first thing that comes to mind when I read these sobering words. Here's what comes to mind for me. It's going to be a disaster. It is going to be an absolute disaster on several fronts. Not something that, it doesn't mean the movies as we know it will disappear forever. That's not what I'm saying. Disasters happen and you get back on your feet and you recover. But this would be a disaster nonetheless. Let's just start with point number one. The first thing you're going to have to understand is that it's not just AMC. AMC will be done. AMC will be dead. Like, just the biggest movie theater exhibitor in the world, like, that is going to disappear. And if you're not short-sighted and you understand how everything is connected, especially in this industry, you start to understand that sense of dread that creeps in about what the dominoes that will fall come into play. Because this movie studios, they make their money in movie theaters. So now, if AMC can't open again to say mid-2021, they're out of business. They're gone. They're dead. That's the number one movie theater chain in the world, is gone. That will affect the studios. But beyond just AMC, let me point this out too. AMC started behind the eight ball because they were in a position of $5 billion in debt, which we've talked about. It was smart debt that they did because they upgraded their theaters. They got their A-list program up and running. They acquired some new locations. Everything would have been great if the pandemic hadn't hit. But they started out behind the eight ball being $5 billion in debt. But make no mistake about it. This shutdown lasting into December, February, March, April, mid-2021, guys, it's not just AMC we're talking about anymore. You think Regal's going to last? You think Regal's going to last having to shut down their business for a year? They're gone. What do you think about Cineworld? For those of our friends in the UK, they're gone. For our friends in Canada, Cineplex, gone. This thing stretches from being a couple of months shutdown, which was dangerous for all of them already, into a year shutdown. We're talking about their very survival. And again, follow the falling dominoes. The theaters are gone. The studios get punched square in the nutsack with Triple H's sledgehammer. It's disastrous. That will then have repercussions of their own. The way that these studios are going to have to look at what can we do, because we can no longer count on a movie making us $300 million in profit. We can no longer count on a movie being a $1.5 billion smash hit, blah, blah, blah. We can no longer count on that revenue. They're going to then have to pivot. Some of the studios in trouble may actually shutter. They may shut down. They go that long. But then you're going to see the studios having to pivot and shrinking their scale and going to smaller stuff. And Rob, I've said before that, streaming is not the answer, and it's simply not. Again, I point everybody back to that Hollywood Reporter roundtable where they had all the studio heads talking together and they bring up the issues of streaming and stuff like that. It's not the answer. But guess what? If this thing stretches into mid-2021, streaming may not be the answer, but it becomes the only option left on the table. So now you're going to see something that I never thought would have happened before, because I never thought the theaters would be closed until 2021. Now you're going to see Black Widow. Guess what? Disney is not going to sit on that for another year. Disney's not going to sit on, I just do not believe that Disney is just going to sit on Black Widow for another year. Black Widow may have to hit streaming. And while a lot of us go, okay, yay, we finally get to see it. Guess what? Disney takes a massive punch to the balls financially because of it. But they can't just, to your point, Rob, you've brought this up many times. You can only leave a big, high budget, big financial implications movie sitting on the shelf for so long. You can only do that for so long. You're talking about all these types of stuff, and we're talking about a tectonic shift in the entire movie industry. The movies will survive, but it'll look a lot different, and there's going to be a lot of dominoes that do fall if this thing stretches into 2021. And these things like, it's even hard to fathom, Rob, because once you start realizing what the next domino to fall is, then your head starts going, okay, and if that happens, look at what happens next. And oh my God, if that happens, look at what happens next. It's a really scary, scary thought for this industry. Anyway, Rob, you take a look and you read this analyst word saying, we're thinking maybe mid-2021. What are the number one, let me ask you this. Number one, what do you think the likelihood is of that being true? But then secondly, if it does turn out to be true, what do you see as being the implications of it?
Well, first of all, I think that movie theaters are probably going to stay closed in the United States. They're opening up in Germany. They're opening up around the world, places where people have been more responsible than we have been. And they've tamped down this virus. There's a reason why there's only like 2 countries left on the earth that will allow Americans into their borders now. Something nutty like that. And I think that movies will probably open. And what's going to happen, I think, is that these big budget tentpoles, the problem is, John, those movies are made with borrowed money. The studios don't just have $200 million lying around in a vault somewhere that they use to finance their films. No, they borrow that money from a bank. So there's interest payments that have to be paid back. And their entire business model is structured on the fact that they know when a movie's going to come out. And if they borrow $200 million to make a No Time to Die or to make a Tenant, they know that, okay, on July 17th, today, the money was going to be coming back to the studio, and they can start making those interest payments and paying off what was part of that production budget. But now they can't. So then the interest payments increase. So eventually the studios, like you said, they can't sit on these big tentpole movies forever and not have them, especially when you have more than one. And they have to start paying back the money they owe because they're increasing their debt load on a daily basis. So I think what's going to happen is if America can't get its act together, and right now this pandemic is raging out of control, more so than it did ever, we're never going to get our theaters open, but other parts of the world will. And I can see that the studio's like, well, you know how we would get movies first before the rest of the world? We're going to be the country like Japan or something that gets it last, unless it's a worldwide release. I could see that happening. I could see the rest of the world's going to get Tenet and Black Widow, and they're going to see these movies, and they might not make everything back because America's obviously a huge market, but they're going to have to start releasing movies in the countries that have been able to get a handle on this virus and open up their theaters. I mean, I could see that happening, but in America, I don't know. And like you said, it would have a devastating effect upon the entire movie business. And streaming can't save everybody, especially it's crazy to me to think that Netflix is going to make a $200 million action film. I understand that, but how do you then, that's a lot of subscribers that you have to get back, or you have to increase your subscription base to justify a $200 million movie. I don't see how the economics will work for that either. I get it if you make a $65 million movie. You know, I get the Snyder cut, which might be up to as much as $80 million. That makes sense to me. But streamers can't put on $200 and $250 million films. How do you, like, if Disney Plus puts Black Widow on their service, they make no money back from that. I mean, sure, they can carve out however many subscriptions they'll get based on that, but they don't get the money they've laid out for the production of the movie. That's something they have to eat. And that wasn't something that they were prepared to do because their business model was based on a theatrical release worldwide. And they expect $1 billion from these movies now. And I don't know, dude. We could be in for a world of hurt if they don't start opening movies in theaters. That's why I think we'll see movies open in theaters in other countries, you know?
Don't you think, I mean, I've thought about that too. Don't you think there's a danger though, or at least an apprehension there on the part of the studios? When you think about, well, listen, the theaters are open in Japan now, the theaters are opening in China, the theaters are opening wherever. Wouldn't there be an apprehension on the part of the studios of going, listen, if we start releasing these in other countries, it's just going to get pirated in the US. And then maybe if we ever get a chance to open them in the US, it's just, yeah, but you think that's just a risk they have to take at this point?
I think at some point, I mean, yeah, piracy would be a huge issue. I don't know how, even if you do it on SVOD, you know, you charge, like we were talking about, something like No Time to Die coming out for like $50 or Tenet $20. You said you pay $20, but as soon as you do that, people will pirate those movies as well, and that's a huge problem. And I see right now we're in a world of hurt because there's all these big movies, whether it's Tenet, whether it's No Time to Die, whether it's the Fast Saga, whether it's the Eternals, these movies that have already been made, the money has been spent. So we've got this sort of interim period, but that could be hugely damaging to the studios as well, financially, by not releasing them, by holding back. I don't know what we're going to do, man. It's a mess. I just wish people would, you know, rather than worry about their civil rights or breathing in carbon monoxide, and everyone's now screaming that it's a plot to take over, you know, the one world government. It's just crazy. It's just a disease. It happens all the time. We've got to take it seriously.
One of my favorite things I've seen on social media lately was, I can't remember, it was some prominent dude who wrote, and I can't remember if I told you this before, but it was a great little thing. Some prominent dude wrote on social media, I put on a mask and within moments I had trouble breathing, right? And then attached to it was a response from this woman who said, my surgeon who wore a mask for 6 hours while reconstructing my knee says you're a drama queen. But anyway, so anyway, guys, the question is for the rest of you guys. The question is for you guys. Number one, do you think that this really can, remember, this is one analyst saying mid-2021, may be the case, may not be the case. Do you think we could actually see the stretch into 2021, mid-2021? And if so, what do you think the repercussions are going to be? Will it be disastrous? We can recover from disasters, but do you think it could actually be disastrous? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.